Hey, when I say the word imagination, what do you think of? Or rather, what do you imagine? For most of us, we think of imagination as an active engagement of our inner visualization process, a kind of reverie and fantasy where we can put together images and even for some of us with very vivid imaginations, like we can even conjure smells and tastes and as well as sights and sounds of something that's not actually here right now, right? Something that we are imagining. So we can imagine something from the past, like we can remember it, but fully visualizing it and bringing it back to consciousness with all the sights and sounds is a way of imaging or imagining it. And we can also, of course, imagine the future, or something that may happen in the future or that we desire to happen in the future. But I want to talk about imagination in a bit of a different way. Because there actually, in my experience, are two kinds of imagination. For lack of a better term, I'm going to call one my finite imagination and one my infinite imagination. My finite imagination is a fantastic tool, for instance, if I want to have a practical engagement with reality using the power of my imagination. For instance, I can imagine what it would be like to drive too fast around that 20-mile-an-hour corner and crash my car headlong into a tree. And my imagining of that will keep me probably from doing that very thing. The second kind of imagination is our infinite imagination. And it's what I encounter most often when I am allowing the muse of my creativity to move through me. Sometimes it's, say, my writing creativity, or it can be, you know, even just sort of like a daydreamy reverie creativity of something I want to do or make or create, or a direction I want to go into in my life. Now, the finite imagination is what often is misused in terms of harnessing the secret or the law of attraction and the power of manifestation and all that stuff. And why is it misused? Well, the finite imagination is only useful to the extent that we can imagine what we know. That's pretty limiting, isn't it? For instance, how could I imagine being perfectly healthy, truly, really imagine it, if I've always been ill? Or let's say, how could I fully imagine being slim and lean and fit if I've all my life been, let's say, overweight and not fit? I can't. The imagination has its limits. And where it really has its limits is when it comes to enlightenment. Because we think we know what that's going to look like, or an awakening, and we imagine that it should be like, Om Namaste, inner peace, tranquility, right? And it does have some of that, but it has a whole lot more. And until my actual awakening, when I actually realized what it was like to leave behind this limited sense of self and engage reality from a more vast perspective of me, capital M, big self, I couldn't possibly have imagined it. It was not even within the realm of possibility. So I'm going to go forward in the next few blocks to talk about the second kind of imagination, the infinite imagination, because it's a useful understanding, not just for those of you who are, say, fascinated by awakening, but for those of you who might be also interested in taking your manifestation gig to the next level. Because when you imagine with your infinite imagination, that's when magic starts. That's when way more than you could ever have thought you wanted comes to you. And it's actually what you needed. You know, is that a Rolling Stones song? You don't always get what you want, you get what you need. I think that's true. So stay tuned as we go into a few more videos over the next while, hopefully once a week. I'm a bit behind lately, about infinite imagination and how it works for not only your awakening, but for the magical life that I know that you want to live. Because you're watching my videos, you must have some energy around magic. Anything like, you know, magic, synchronicity, flow. I think that's our cup of tea. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week when we go into the Infinite Imagination, Part 2. Oh, and I'm at my cottage, by the way, if you're wondering where this is. It's a glorious sunny day up here, and I've been writing my fiction book and enjoying this infinite imagination, which sparked this blog post. So thanks so much. I'll see you next week. Mwah.